What if I told you that the most dangerous thing in your trading journey isn't the market, but your own tendency to see patterns that aren't there? That's seduction. Your deep desire to find order in chaos is how randomness fools your mind, day after day, chart after chart. From the moment you stare at your first price action graph, your brain is working overtime, connecting dots, inventing stories. And if you're honest, you've probably found yourself saying, "This setup looks just like last week's winner." But here's the brutal truth. More often than not, that's an illusion. In Fooled by Randomness, Taleb doesn't just suggest this, he pounds it into your head. The world is far more random than we think. You've been conditioned, as all humans are, to search for meaning in the noise. That's why every moving average cross, every double top, every breakout catches your eye and your confidence. But have you ever wondered how many of these patterns are real and how many are just random streaks? Taleb tells us that our brains are story-making machines, hungry for explanations. This isn't just Taleb's insight. Mark Douglas, in Trading in the Zone, warns you against treating every trade like it's a prophecy. Jared Tendler, too, exposes how traders see what they want to see, not what is. You're in good company if you've chased ghosts in the market. Now, think about your last lucky trade. Did you convince yourself you saw something no one else could see? The mind believes in causality, even when it doesn't exist, Taleb says. You want patterns because patterns mean control, and control means safety. But in trading, this is a mirage. The market is full of false positives. The more you look for meaning in randomness, the more you find what isn't there. You're not alone. Taleb shares the story of traders who rose quickly, thinking they discovered the secret sauce, only to crash and burn when randomness turned against them. It's a cycle as old as speculation itself. Have you ever broken your trading plan because of a red candle? That, right there, is you chasing shadows, believing you're seeing the invisible hand of the market when you're only seeing your own fear. This is the root of so many trading errors. You overfit your strategy, tweak your indicators, and believe you've cracked the code. But randomness laughs at your certainties. Taleb shows you the coin flipping analogy. If 1,000 traders each flip a coin, some will have winning streaks just by chance. But only the winners get attention, while the losers fade away. Are you seeing skill, or are you fooled by randomness? Here's where it gets dangerous. When you believe you're seeing real patterns, you size up, get aggressive, and ignore risk. You start believing you're smarter than the market. That's when randomness, that silent assassin, steps in. Taleb says, mild success can be more perilous than failure, since it lulls you into self-deception. That's why trading requires humility, because the moment you're convinced you've got it all figured out, you're already at risk. But don't mistake this for hopelessness. Awareness is power. If you can admit that you're vulnerable to seeing patterns where none exist, you start to build the foundation of real discipline. You slow down. You question your impulses. You become less of a gambler and more of a risk manager. This is the core lesson Taleb, Douglas, Tendler, and Bellafiore all hammer home. Your edge is not in outsmarting randomness, but in not letting it outsmart you. So ask yourself, how often have you let pattern seeking dictate your trades? How many times have you told yourself, this time is different? Only to be reminded, sometimes brutally, that the market doesn't care about your stories? Your first step isn't to find better patterns. Your first step is to see the illusion for what it is. Once you do, you'll begin to respect the randomness in every tick, every candle, every wild move. Only then can you start to play the game as it really is, not as you wish it to be. You learn to benefit from disorder and unpredictability, building systems that thrive when randomness strikes. This is the culmination of Taleb's philosophy. Don't just protect yourself from randomness, find ways to use it to your advantage. Most traders want calm seas and predictable winds, but the market is a stormy ocean. Instead of fearing the waves, you must learn to surf them. Taleb calls this anti-fragility, the art of gaining from volatility, stress, and uncertainty. So, how do you apply this in trading? You stop designing strategies that crumble under pressure. You start building approaches that grow stronger from chaos. It means shifting from defensive to offensive thinking. Instead of asking, how do I avoid harm? Ask, how do I position myself so the unexpected makes me stronger? It's a mindset few traders ever achieve, but it's the edge that sets you apart. Anti-fragile traders embrace volatility. They structure their trades so that rare events, those unpredictable spikes or crashes, don't just avoid hurting them, they actually provide opportunity. Taleb gives you examples. Traders who use options to cap downside and let profits run, or who hedge with strategies that profit from violent moves. The best setups are those where your risk is strictly limited, but your potential upside is unlimited. This is the barbell strategy. Put most of your capital in ultra-safe assets and a small, calculated portion in high-risk, high-reward bets. You're not chasing average returns, you're seeking asymmetry. What does this look like day to day? It's refusing to over-leverage when times are good so you have ammunition when the market turns. It's building routines that adapt to stress, not collapse under it. You monitor your positions and your psychology, looking for ways to benefit from new volatility. When others panic, you stay rational and ready. Taleb warns that most traders are fragile. They need everything to go right, and when it doesn't, they break. But anti-fragile traders design systems that gain from shocks. When a black swan hits, they're not wiped out. They're waiting, prepared, and in position to capture the upside. This requires discipline, patience, and a constant willingness to adapt. It means taking profits quickly in calm times and pressing your edge when the world gets noisy. Douglas and Tendler both agree. The emotional strength to act in uncertainty is as important as the technical strategy. You build habits that reinforce this. You detach from the outcome of any one trade, knowing your system thrives in the aggregate, not the individual moment. Bellafiore's traders survive because they keep risk small and hunt for moments of wild opportunity. So ask yourself, are you fragile or anti-fragile? Are you hoping for calm or are you prepared for chaos? The anti-fragile trader is the one who lasts, who grows, who prospers, not despite randomness, but because of it. This is your wake-up call. Stop trying to predict the storm. Learn to benefit from it. Apply this to your journey. Review your strategy. Where is it weakest? Where could a rare event ruin you? How can you cap your downside while exposing yourself to open-ended upside? This shift isn't just technical, it's psychological. The moment you embrace uncertainty as your ally, not your enemy, is the moment you start to become truly anti-fragile. Remember, in Taleb's world, the winners aren't the ones who avoid randomness. They're the ones who use it. That's your new job. Turn chaos into opportunity, disorder into growth, and fear into discipline. That's how you stop being fooled by randomness and start thriving because of it. If you've stayed with this narrative, you now know the harsh truth. Trading isn't about perfect prediction, magical setups, or controlling the uncontrollable. It's about recognizing where randomness fools you every single day and having the humility, discipline, and courage to adapt. Taleb's Fooled by Randomness strips away your illusions. He forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality that most traders live and die by chance, not skill. But here's the gift. Once you see the tricks your own mind plays, the hunt for patterns, the comfort of certainty, the blindness to survivorship, and the ego's craving for control, you finally gain real power over your trading destiny. So what's the action plan? Start with ruthless honesty. Accept that you can't predict, only prepare. Make humility and risk management your daily rituals. Seek out your own cognitive traps, anchoring, confirmation, narrative fallacy, and call them out. Build your trading so it survives chaos and even benefits from it. Read the most difficult sections first, the ones that challenge your beliefs and habits. Apply Taleb's lessons. Prioritize survival, respect probabilities, and create systems that thrive under stress. Trading isn't a game you win, it's a game you endure. The sooner you embrace randomness, the faster you'll move from fragile to anti-fragile, from being constantly surprised to thriving on surprise itself. Remember, every trade is a lesson, every loss a teacher, and every random event an opportunity for growth. If you're serious about mastering your psychology, don't just read Fooled by Randomness. Study it, question it, and live it. Share your insights in the comments, like if you've had your own aha moments, and subscribe for more deep dives into the real mental edge of trading. Your journey is just beginning. Make sure you're not fooled by randomness, but empowered by it. Over these 10 sections, you've learned how randomness seduces your mind, how survivorship bias and narrative fallacies cloud your judgment, and how emotion, ego, and overconfidence amplify your risks. You now see the critical need for humility, probability-based thinking, robust risk management, and anti-fragility. Taleb's lessons, echoed by Douglas, Tendler, and Bellafiore, are a blueprint for surviving and thriving amid uncertainty. Your call to action: question your assumptions, seek out randomness, and build a trading process that's unbreakable. If you found value, comment with your biggest takeaway and subscribe for more wisdom on trading psychology and discipline. You only see the winners and ignore the silent failures. Your perceptions are shaped by who remains standing. This is survivorship bias at work, and if you don't recognize it, you're walking blindfolded into the trap Taleb warns about. Every time you study the successful traders, read about the hedge funds that doubled returns, or idolize the talking heads on YouTube, you're forgetting the countless others who didn't make it. Their stories never get told. They vanished, erased by the very randomness you refuse to acknowledge. Taleb's critique is unflinching. You are obsessed with outcomes, not processes. You admire the legendary traders, thinking if you just follow their path, you'll achieve the same results. But the market is a cruel filter. The losers disappear, their lessons lost. You only see the tip of the iceberg, the small group who survived the storms, not the vast graveyard of blown accounts beneath the surface. As Taleb writes, we see the winners. We don't see the cemetery of losers. It's seductive, isn't it? The urge to copy success stories, to mimic the styles and tactics of those who made it. But what you're not seeing is the invisible denominator: luck. The same random events that destroy most traders can lift a few into the spotlight. And you, desperate for certainty, convince yourself there's a clear formula. But what if those you admire just got lucky? Right place, right time, the perfect storm of randomness? Other thinkers echo Taleb's warning. Mike Bellafiore in One Good Trade describes how many talented traders burn out unnoticed, while only a handful become examples to emulate. Douglas reminds you, the market is not out to get you, it just doesn't care. The market doesn't reward skill in every case. Sometimes it simply spares the lucky. You want proof? Consider the thousands of traders who start each year, all with ambition, skill, and drive. A handful will be on magazine covers, the rest will disappear. You'll never hear their stories, never learn from their mistakes. You build your beliefs on the survivors, but your sample is hopelessly skewed. And this is how randomness fools you, quietly, efficiently, day after day. Think back. How many times have you judged a trading strategy by its winners? How many times have you tried to replicate a hot streak you saw online, only to stumble when luck ran out? Survivorship bias infects every backtest, every highlight reel. Even when you analyze your own results, you edit out the failures, consciously or not. It's a dangerous blindness. Taleb drills into your mind that the market's lessons are written in disappearing ink. The losers' stories are erased. Only the geniuses are left, giving TED Talks, selling courses, writing books. But did they have a real edge or just a lucky run in a random world? You can't know, and if you pretend otherwise, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So what do? You change your focus. Stop idolizing results. Start interrogating the process. Ask yourself, did this trader survive by being robust or just by being lucky? Do their methods stand up to randomness, or did they simply dodge disaster long enough to be noticed? Seek out stories of failure and learn from them, because that's where the real lessons are buried. Here's the wake-up call. Your true competition isn't the winners you see, but the randomness you don't. If you don't acknowledge the invisible graveyard, you're not trading. You're gambling on hope. As Taleb urges, to be a successful trader, you must first survive. And to survive, you must see the whole picture, not just the polished success stories paraded before you. So next time you feel yourself drawn to the glamorous narrative of another market genius, remember the thousands who came before and vanished. Let that humility guide you. In trading, wisdom comes from seeing what's missing, not just what's right in front of you. You're addicted to stories that make sense after the fact, but you rewrite randomness as if you always saw it coming. This is the narrative fallacy, and it's as old as human history. Your brain is hardwired to connect the dots, to make sense of chaos, to turn every random walk into a neat, tidy storyline. When you look back on your trades, your wins and your losses, you're probably guilty of knowing it all along. But in the heat of the moment, it was anything but clear. Taleb's Fooled by Randomness exposes this habit with clinical precision. He writes, "We are faulty storytellers, always trying to squeeze events into a cause-effect framework, even when such patterns are entirely illusory." Think about the last time you experienced a wild swing in your P&L. Afterward, did you construct a narrative explaining exactly why it happened? Did you assign causes, even if you were guessing? This breakout failed because of the Fed announcement, you tell yourself. But is that true, or are you just making sense of randomness? Here's the trap. When you explain randomness after the fact, you give yourself the illusion of control and understanding. It's comforting. It protects your ego. But it's a dangerous comfort because it breeds overconfidence. The real pain comes when you look at your losing trades and rationalize them as bad luck, while your winners get chalked up to skill. You're rewriting your past to fit your present narrative, and in doing so, you blind yourself to reality. This isn't just Taleb's insight. Douglas, Tendler, and Bellafiore all warn against hindsight bias and the dangers of post hoc rationalization. How many times have you reviewed your trade journal, cherry-picking the data to fit the story you want to believe? You filter out inconvenient details, smooth over the rough edges, and convince yourself you're learning, when in reality, you're just rewriting history. The narrative fallacy infects every corner of trading. You see it in backtests, where you adjust parameters until the past fits your story. You see it in social media, where traders boast about calling the last market move, but ignore their silent misses. And you see it in yourself, every time you look for meaning in the meaningless. Taleb shares the cautionary tale of traders who, after a run of success, believe they have discovered a pattern that will guarantee future wins. When randomness inevitably turns against them, they're blindsided. Events seem explainable after the fact, Taleb writes, but that doesn't mean they were predictable. You can only see the path when you're looking backwards. So what's the solution? You must develop brutal self-honesty. Challenge your own stories. Ask, am I truly learning or just spinning a narrative to protect my ego? Tendler pushes you to analyze your mistakes without judgment. Douglas reminds you that the market is a place of infinite possibility, where any outcome can and does happen. The story you write after the fact has no bearing on the randomness you'll face tomorrow. It's humbling to realize how much you don't know and never will. But embracing that humility is where real growth begins. The best traders learn to sit with uncertainty, to resist the urge to explain everything, to accept that not every move is a lesson or a warning. Sometimes, things just happen. When you let go of the need to make sense of everything, you free yourself from the tyranny of narrative. You begin to respect the true nature of the markets, unpredictable, messy, and full of surprises. That's when you stop being fooled by randomness and start managing it. So next time you review your trades, resist the urge to craft a perfect story. Instead, admit what you didn't know. Celebrate what you learned. And remember, the only narrative that matters is the one you write with your discipline, your humility, and your willingness to accept the unknown. Every sudden loss or gain triggers your emotions, exposing the human mind's inability to accept chance as just chance. How many times have you felt the sting of a stop loss or the rush of a winning trade, only to find yourself desperate for an explanation? Any explanation? It's not just you. Your emotional brain craves reason, cause, and justice. But the market doesn't deliver any of these. Taleb shows you that the emotional pain or joy you feel in response to each random outcome is itself evidence of your struggle to accept randomness as a force outside your control. Have you ever caught yourself feeling angry after a perfectly executed trade ends in a loss? Or giddy after a risky, impulsive trade happens to pay off? This is the gambler's fallacy in action. You want every trade to be a referendum on your ability, your intelligence, your destiny. Taleb explains, we attribute our successes to skill and our failures to external events. But when the market deals you a random outcome, your mind rebels. You take it personally. That's why trading is such a psychological crucible. Every tick up or down isn't just about money. It's about your self-worth, your story, your dreams. One day you feel invincible. The next you're questioning your entire system. Taleb's warning is sharp. Emotion is the enemy of rational decision-making in a random world. If you let your emotions interpret every outcome, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of psychological whiplash. Mark Douglas, in Trading in the Zone, echoes Taleb's insight. He insists the market's behavior is neutral. It's your interpretation that creates emotion. This is a radical idea. The market doesn't owe you a win, and it isn't out to punish you. Every outcome is just that, an outcome. But your emotional response turns it into a drama. Have you ever stayed up late, analyzing what you should have done differently, torturing yourself over losses, obsessing over missed profits? That's your brain refusing to accept randomness. It gets worse. If you start believing that every loss is a lesson or every gain is proof of your system, you fall into the trap of emotional pattern seeking. You begin to change your plan, tweak your rules, and react to every random outcome as if it contains a secret message. Jared Tendler calls this tilting, the state where your emotions hijack your rational mind. One bad loss can spiral into a string of poor decisions as you chase your losses or double down on bad trades. Here's the truth. Taleb wants you to internalize. Not every loss is a mistake. Not every gain is skill. Sometimes you just flipped the coin and it landed on the wrong side. The healthiest traders develop emotional resilience, a kind of stoic detachment that allows them to execute their plans regardless of short-term outcomes. They know that most of what happens is noise, not signal. You need to train yourself to see your emotions for what they are, natural human reactions to random events. Don't let those feelings drive your next move. Bellafiore teaches traders to detach from results and focus on process. That's not just good advice. It's survival. If you base your self-esteem on every trade, you're handing your sense of worth over to randomness. So, next time your heart races after a winning streak or sinks after a drawdown, remember Taleb's challenge. Can you sit with randomness and not take it personally? Can you accept that the market is indifferent to your hopes and fears? Your growth as a trader begins the moment you stop searching for meaning in every tick and start managing your reactions instead. If you want to master the game, you must master yourself. The more you accept that chance is just chance, the less power it has over your emotions, and the more disciplined, consistent, and resilient you become. You constantly mistake luck for skill until a streak ends and you're left questioning your own expertise. This is the great con that randomness plays on traders. Every time you string together a few winning trades, it feels like you've arrived, that you finally get it. Taleb hammers this point. Most people are fooled by randomness into believing their successes are the product of skill, when often it's nothing more than a favorable roll of the dice. Think about your last winning streak. Did you feel smarter, more in control, somehow elevated above the average trader? The lucky fool is often more successful than the skillful one. Taleb warns. It's human nature to believe that what works now tomorrow, to see patterns in random success, and to internalize that feeling of superiority. That's where the danger lies. When the streak inevitably ends, and it will, reality hits hard. You doubt your method, you question your ability, and you might even feel betrayed by the market. This isn't just theory. It happens every day. Traders on social media flaunt their profits, post their winning trades, and attract followers who want to copy their edge. But for every celebrated winner, there are dozens who rode a hot hand for a while, only to vanish when randomness turned against them. The ones left standing aren't always the most skilled. They're often just the luckiest. Other trading psychologists reinforce this lesson. Douglas emphasizes that consistency isn't about being right, but about managing risk. Tendler urges you to ask, how much of my success is due to skill, and how much is luck? If you don't answer honestly, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Bellafiore is blunt. The market will find your weakness. It will expose the parts of you that believe in certainty over probability. It's easy to fall for the illusion when things go well, but true skill reveals itself in how you handle losses, not just wins. Luck can carry you for a while, but only discipline and risk management keep you in the game long term. Taleb illustrates this with the story of the Russian roulette trader. Someone who takes reckless risks wins big and thinks it's because of brilliance, until the chamber is loaded and disaster strikes. Ask yourself, are you tracking your results with a sober mind, or are you allowing luck to inflate your sense of mastery? When you win, do you review the process, or just celebrate the outcome? The best traders are relentless in their self-examination. They know that luck and skill are tangled together in every result, and they're always on guard against hubris. What's the antidote? Develop humility. Always interrogate your wins as closely as your losses. Did you follow your plan? Did the market environment favor your strategy, or were you just lucky? Taleb insists, it's more important to be skeptical of your own success than your failures. This isn't easy, but it's essential if you want to avoid being blindsided by randomness. Reality check. If you attribute all your wins to skill, you're creating a false sense of security. The market doesn't care about your ego. It will punish your complacency the moment luck runs out. Build habits that separate luck from skill. Keep a detailed trading journal, analyze your trades objectively, and never let a hot streak go to your head. This is how you build real resilience. When you accept that luck plays a massive role, you stop chasing certainty and start focusing on what you can control: your process, your risk, your discipline. You're no longer fooled by randomness. Instead, you become a student of it. And that's the edge that separates survivors from casualties in the trading game. You cling to first impressions and seek evidence to justify your beliefs, falling into mental traps that distort your judgment. Every trader faces this battle, whether they realize it or not. Taleb exposes how anchoring and confirmation bias infect your thinking, quietly warping your perception of reality. Anchoring happens the moment you latch onto an initial price, opinion, or market forecast. It becomes your reference point, and you judge everything else against it. Confirmation bias is even more insidious. You actively seek information that supports your beliefs and ignore what contradicts them. Picture this. You enter a trade at $50, and immediately that price becomes your anchor. Every tick above feels like victory. Every tick below feels like a threat. You justify holding a losing position because deep down, you can't accept that your original idea was random or even wrong. Taleb's lesson is sharp. Anchoring can trap us into illogical, damaging decisions. The first number or idea we get exposed to sticks with us, often forever. The market moves, but your mind stays stuck. And then there's confirmation bias. You start seeking out opinions, news, and analyses that reinforce your view, blocking out anything that challenges your conviction. How many times have you scrolled through forums only to latch onto posts that say you're right and skip over the warnings? It's not just you. This is a universal flaw in human psychology. Tendler calls it selective perception. Douglas warns, if you can't accept being wrong, you'll distort reality until you're right. Taleb shows you that these biases are especially dangerous in a world dominated by randomness. Why? Because they create a false sense of certainty. You become more committed to your story, more defensive about your positions, and less able to adapt when things change. It's how good traders go bad, one stubborn, biased decision at a time. The market punishes inflexibility and rewards adaptability, Taleb insists. But you can't adapt if you're blinded by your own beliefs. Let's be honest. Have you ever added to a losing position, convinced that your anchor is the true price? Have you dismissed negative news, only to regret it when the market moved against you? These aren't just mistakes, they're symptoms of cognitive traps that will empty your account if you let them. The market is a master at exposing psychological weaknesses. Bellafiore observes, traders lose not because they lack skill, but because they're not aware of their biases. You want to be right more than you want to survive. But the only traders who thrive are those who learn to challenge their own thinking relentlessly. So how do you fight back? The first step is radical self-awareness. Question every belief, especially the ones you feel most confident about. Regularly ask yourself, what would have to be true for me to be wrong? Expose yourself to dissenting opinions. Make it a habit to review your trading decisions, not just your results. The more you bring your biases into the light, the less control they have over you. Remember, Taleb doesn't ask you to eliminate bias. He knows that's impossible. He urges you to recognize and compensate for it. Set rules for yourself. When you're anchored to a price, force a reevaluation. When you notice yourself ignoring contradictory evidence, make a point to seek it out. Build your trading process so that it checks your judgment at every turn. This is hard work. It takes humility and discipline. But if you want to stop being fooled by randomness, you have to start by being honest with yourself. Every trader's journey is littered with moments where anchoring or confirmation bias led to disaster. Learn from those moments. Accept that your mind isn't built for perfect objectivity and create systems to protect yourself from yourself. That's the only way you'll ever see the market as it truly is, a shifting landscape of probabilities, not certainties. And that's where your edge lies, not in predicting the future, but in seeing your own thinking clearly. You underestimate tail risks and the impact of rare events, failing to prepare for the black swan that wipes out years of profit. This is where your trading discipline is truly tested. You're trained by experience to focus on the routine, the probable, the familiar. But as Taleb relentlessly warns, the events that really shape your trading results are those rare, unpredictable shocks that no backtest or risk model can predict. The world is dominated by the extreme, the unknown, and the very improbable, he writes. Yet, how often do you factor that into your trading plan? Let's be brutally honest. Most traders don't. You place your stops where everyone else does, thinking, that's enough protection. You size your positions for average volatility, assuming the next candle will look like the last one. But the market doesn't care about your assumptions. It's the outlier, the sudden flash crash, the unexpected central bank move, the geopolitical shock that defines your fate. Taleb calls these black swan events, rare but massively consequential. And if you aren't planning for them, you're planning for disaster. Douglas and Tendler back Taleb up. You don't need to predict the improbable. You need to survive it. Bellafiore tells his traders to assume anything can happen because the very moment you think you're safe is when you're most exposed. Look at history. The 2008 financial crisis, the Swiss franc debacle, the COVID-19 market crash. Most traders didn't lose because they were undisciplined. They lost because their models never considered the tail event. Here's the trap: complacency. It's easy to be lulled into a false sense of security when markets are calm, when strategies work, and profits come steadily. You convince yourself that your risk management is enough. But as Taleb says, we are far more likely to be blindsided by the unexpected than by the expected. And when the storm hits, it's too late to adjust. How do you protect yourself? By understanding asymmetry. The gains from normal market behavior are incremental, but the losses from rare extreme moves can be catastrophic. Taleb advocates building systems that are robust to outliers, not just optimized for the average. That means cutting your position sizes, diversifying risk, and never betting so much that a single event can wipe you out. It means respecting your stops, not because you're likely to need them today, but because someday you will. Ask yourself, are you building a strategy that survives the improbable or one that thrives only in normal times? Are you honest about your exposures, or are you gambling that tomorrow will be like today? The best traders are obsessed with survival. They're less concerned with how much they make on a good day than with how little they lose on a bad one. Here's a practical takeaway. Simulate worst-case scenarios. Ask, what if the market gaps through my stop? What if my broker goes down? What if liquidity disappears? Don't just hope these things won't happen. Prepare for them. Make sure your position sizing, your leverage, your stop placement, and even your broker choice reflect the reality that black swans happen. And they happen fast. Taleb's message is clear. The inability to predict outliers implies the inability to predict the course of history. You're not trying to forecast the next big shock. You're building resilience for when not if it comes. Don't let years of effort be destroyed in a moment of arrogance or neglect. If you want to be more than a temporary winner, if you want to be a survivor, your real edge isn't in finding better setups. It's in respecting the asymmetry of risk and designing your trading life so that you're never wiped out by the unexpected. Because in the end, it's not the day-to-day grind that determines your fate, but how you respond when randomness strikes hardest. Your ego thrives on perceived certainty, but overconfidence makes you vulnerable to devastating surprises. This is where the danger lies, not in the market, but in your own sense of infallibility. The more you think you know what's going to happen, the more the market is poised to humble you. Taleb pulls no punches. It's not that we don't know. It's that we don't know that we don't know. In trading, overconfidence is a silent killer. You feel smarter after a few wins. You start believing you have a special edge, a secret insight, a gift. But that sense of certainty is a mirage, conjured by randomness and inflated by your ego. You felt it, the rush of making a string of great trades, the temptation to increase your size, to ignore your stops, to believe you're above average. It feels good to be right. It feels powerful. But that power is borrowed, not earned, and it can be taken away in a heartbeat. Taleb shows you example after example of traders, fund managers, and even entire firms who believed their own story until the unexpected struck. Then their confidence turned to confusion and their fortunes vanished. Think about how often you ignore the warnings. Maybe you read about risk management, but you convince yourself it's for other traders. Maybe you know you should have a plan for extreme events, but you think, that won't happen to me. The market is patient. It waits for your guard to drop. And when it does, it's ruthless. Mark Douglas and Jared Tendler echo this message. Douglas warns, the market is an environment of uncertainty. The moment you start believing you can control it, you're already in trouble. Tendler pushes you to recognize how overconfidence can cloud your judgment and make you blind to real risk. Bellafiore sees it every day. Talented traders destroyed not by the market, but by their own certainty. Why do you fall into this trap? Because your brain craves certainty. You want to feel in control, to have answers, to believe your methods are superior. Overconfidence feeds your self-image, protects your ego, and drowns out doubt. But the stronger your need for certainty, the more exposed you are when the market throws you a curveball. This is the cost of certainty. Missed warnings, reckless bets, ignored stop losses, oversized positions. The emotional pain is bad enough, but the financial pain is often catastrophic. Taleb points out that in finance, being wrong is expensive. The more convinced you are of your own genius, the bigger the risk you'll take, and the harder you'll fall. So how do you fight back? Build humility into your process. Remind yourself every single day that you don't have all the answers. Surround yourself with reminders of what you don't know. Set strict rules for risk and never let your confidence talk you out of them. Review your worst trades as carefully as your best. Challenge your assumptions, even when things are going well, especially when things are going well. This isn't about being timid. It's about being honest. The best traders are confident, yes, but their confidence is in their discipline, their adaptability, and their respect for randomness, not in their ability to predict the future. Taleb calls this epistemic humility, knowing the limits of your own knowledge and embracing uncertainty as a fact of life. So next time you're on a hot streak, pause. Ask yourself, am I getting better or just getting lucky? When you feel the urge to take on more risk, remind yourself, I don't know what happens next. Your edge comes not from pretending you're certain, but from preparing for when you're wrong. In trading, humility isn't weakness, it's survival. The market doesn't care about your ego. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll stop being blindsided by the very certainty you thought was your greatest strength. You must embrace humility, accept probabilities over predictions, and prioritize surviving the game above all else. If you want to last as a trader, this is the mindset you must adopt. Taleb's harshest lesson is that the market rewards those who acknowledge their ignorance, who stop pretending they can know the unknowable, and who act as risk managers first, traders second. The wise one is the one who knows he does not know, Taleb says. The rest? They become statistics, swept away by the same randomness they refuse to accept. You crave certainty, every trader does. But what sets survivors apart is their relationship with probability. The market is not a puzzle with a solution. It's a casino where your edge is measured in probabilities, not certainties. Mark Douglas drills this home. Your job isn't to predict, it's to execute your plan, manage risk, and stack the odds in your favor. If you're still obsessed with being right, you're missing the point. As Taleb puts it, it is more random than you think, even when you think it is random. Every day you wake up and face 1,000 variables, macro news, sentiment, technical setups, rumors, black swans. You can't control these forces, and if you think you can, you'll make reckless decisions. Tendler teaches that the strongest traders are those who accept their lack of control. Their confidence comes from their preparation, not from predictions. Bellafiore's advice is simple. Stay in the game. Longevity is the edge. What does that look like in practice? It means building your trading around the possibility of being wrong, often and sometimes spectacularly. It means reducing position sizes, taking partial profits, moving stops to break even, diversifying your trades. Every choice is filtered through the question, what if I'm wrong? You're not just surviving, you're compounding the small advantages that come with humility and risk awareness. Taleb is relentless in reminding you. The biggest mistake is to think that what happened in the past is a reliable indicator of what's to come. The market will always surprise you. If your survival depends on everything going to plan, you're doomed. But if you build your process around probabilities, if you prepare for chaos, expect the unexpected, and never let your ego dictate your decisions, you'll last far longer than those who bet everything on a single prediction. Think about your own journey. When have you suffered the most? Was it when you doubled down on a sure thing, or when you sized up because you were convinced the odds were in your favor? How did those moments end? Contrast that with the times you cut losses quickly, walked away from noise, or admitted you didn't know. Which mindset preserved your capital and your confidence? This humility doesn't come naturally. You have to practice it. Review your trades, especially your losses, and ask what probabilities you ignored. When you're tempted to predict, choose instead to manage risk. Let your edge come from consistency, not clairvoyance. Surround yourself with reminders that every great trader is a survivor first and a winner second. Here's your call to action. Stop trying to win every trade. Start trying to outlast the competition. Accept that probabilities, not predictions, are your currency. As Taleb says, survival is the only road to riches. It's not sexy, but it's the truth. The longer you survive, the more randomness works in your favor. So ask yourself, right now, are you trading to be right, or are you trading to survive? One of these leads to lasting success. The other leads to disaster.